I was reading the comments of one of my latest videos, and someone proposed an interesting fight. This friend asks if Yujiro could beat Homelander from The Boys. Well, in this video, we will discuss this interesting fight. But before we start with the comparisons of strength and ability, I must clarify that for this versus, we will consider the Homelander from the live-action series, since that is his most popular version and the one most people know. Most people already know Yujiro Hanma, but for those who will watch the video just for Homelander, let me tell you that Yujiro Hanma is one of the main characters of the Baki series, and in his universe, he is considered the strongest creature on Earth due to his incredible strength and great feats. But well, let's get to the point and start with the comparisons. Homelander is the most powerful superhero in The Boys, and is basically a parody of Superman. This guy acts like a good superhero with intentions of helping the weak. However, that's just a mask, and in reality, he is a narcissist who only thinks about himself and doesn't care about harming innocents to achieve his goals. Homelander shares the same position as Yujiro, as both are considered the man who is above everything. Both know they can get anything just by taking it, and also know that they are superior to normal humans in certain aspects. However, the biggest difference between them lies in their maturity and experience. Homelander considers himself a god, however he spent most of his life living under the orders of a man without any superpower. Also, as a child, he lived locked up between four walls while being cared for by scientists. It wasn't until his adulthood when he realized his true power. Unlike Yujiro, Homelander does not know the real world. He doesn't know what it's like to earn the title of the strongest, because it was given to him and he was turned into a kind of celebrity. That's how Vought kept him happy to take advantage of his image and make a lot of money. He was practically a product of a company, and to some extent, never had a voice of authority despite being the strongest man in the world. On the other hand, Yujiro earned the title of the strongest creature on Earth with his bare fists. He ventured as a teenager on a journey to achieve true strength. One of his greatest feats has been having defeated the United States Army on his own. But even though Yujiro achieved ultimate strength, he did not become narcissistic and did not develop a god complex. On the contrary, he knows how to recognize when a man or woman is worthy of his respect. Both hold the position of the strongest, but their philosophies are completely different. It's true that Yujiro is a sadistic guy and has committed heinous acts. However, he still retains human qualities like respect, admiration, and love. Of course, his concept of love is somewhat different from that of most people. In terms of life philosophy, Yujiro is superior, and this is thanks to his decades of experience, as he has known the whole world and interacted with people from different regions. Homelander seems to have several internal problems that prevent him from seeing the world correctly. Sometimes he is capricious, and it can be clearly seen that he is a very childish and easily irritable person. We must remember that he admitted to feeling intimidated by Stan Edgar for most of his life. Yujiro, on the other hand, never suffered from these kinds of problems. The only man who could be at his level was his father, but he disappeared without a trace a long time ago. It is certain that if these two faced off in a battle of words, Yujiro would give him a monumental beating. When we talk about raw power, we refer to the physical strength of the characters, that is, the strength they have to perform feats such as lifting cars or destroying walls with a single blow. In this aspect, I must give the advantage to Yujiro Hanma, as he has demonstrated greater feats of strength throughout the Baki series. We have hardly seen Homelander in action. He has only had a couple of fights and his demonstrations of power are scarce. So, for this comparison, we will only take into account what we have seen in the live-action series. In terms of brute strength, Yujiro is by far stronger than Nomi, a character who was able to turn a piece of carbon into diamond using his hands. To accomplish this titanic task requires exerting an extremely high pressure. I don't give you exact numbers with a scientific basis, because I was researching and I always came across very complicated answers, and none was comparable to this feat achieved by Nomi. However, the creator of the series said that the force used by this character was around 100,000 atmospheres. In other words, doing this with the strength of the hands would be something that perhaps guys like Superman or Goku could do. I mean, here we are already talking about major leagues. On another occasion, Yujiro beat up an Australian elephant that looked more like a kaiju because it was several times larger and heavier than a normal elephant. Not even an army of men could stand up to it, but Yujiro came, defeated it, and then ate it on skewers. The real weight of this elephant was not specified, but users on Reddit have calculated that this specimen could weigh between 180 and 250 tons. This is already a monstrous amount of weight, and the ogre defeated it without receiving a single scratch. What was made clear is that this monster ate 21 tons of food a day, which is why it represented a national threat that required military intervention. Destroying walls is also no problem for Yujiro, as he has destroyed a large number of them without any effort. In fact, he once went through a bullet and explosive-proof armored glass wall. Yujiro walked through that wall without getting a scratch. In the other corner is Homelander, who so far has shown us very few demonstrations of brute strength. The maximum destruction we saw on his part was when he fought against two characters almost as strong as him, and despite fighting with the intention of annihilating them, he was not able to even destroy a wall. It's as if his fists were not as strong compared to Yujiro, who throws punches so powerful that he can even break the sound barrier. Speculatively, we could suggest that Homelander could lift a weight of approximately between 200 and 300 tons, as that would be the weight of the plane he and Queen Maeve tried to save. She asked him to lift the airplane with his hands to prevent it from crashing, but he said he couldn't do it because there was no support surface. The question in the air is whether he really could do it but refused, or if he didn't do it because he really couldn't. Given the circumstances and what has been seen so far, we can conclude that in a bare-knuckle fight Yujiro has the advantage. Homelander's maximum strength is unknown, but based on what he has demonstrated to date, we could say that physically he would be a little more than twice as strong as Captain America from the MCU, but not at the level of metahumans like Hulk. The movement speed of Yujiro Hanma is somewhat uncertain because we have never seen him running at maximum speed. However, we have seen some moments where he demonstrates his reaction speed. For example, he is able to stop with his fingers an arrow shot by an archer a couple of meters away. It is estimated that the speed reached by an arrow shot by a professional archer ranges between 200 and 300 kilometers per hour. He has also demonstrated his incredible reaction time when he dodged an electric lightning bolt while walking down the street, which is quite significant, since it is often said that the speed of lightning is one-third the speed of light in air. On the other hand, we have never seen Homelander perform feats of extreme speed, but we can take into account that time when he flew at the same speed as a commercial airplane and did not seem to be making a great effort to keep up. The speed of commercial airplanes depends on several factors, but it could be said they are much faster than a bullet train. But to have a more exact reference, we have to take into account A-Train, the fastest character in The Boys. He runs at Mach 1, which is the speed of sound. This guy runs at an incredible speed and yet is completely submissive to Homelander's orders. Do you think if this guy was really faster than Homelander, he would let himself be humiliated by him? It is said that Homelander is twice as fast as a train when flying, so, making this vague comparison, we could deduce that Yujiro would have no chance to keep up with Homelander in a fight in open field. In this aspect, they would be tied as Homelander would win in terms of displacement speed, while Yujiro would have the advantage in terms of reflexes and reaction time if the fight turns into a physical combat. In terms of combat skills and techniques, the fight could be more evenly matched. It's clear that Yujiro is a better fighter than Homelander in every aspect. In fact, Homelander lacks significant combat experience. In his only major fight, he had to escape when he was at a disadvantage. Yujiro masters almost all martial arts, and can learn those he doesn't know just by observing them once. This ability has been demonstrated on several occasions. The ogre has the defensive Shoori technique, which allows him to relax his body, making it as light as a feather. This means that if an opponent tries to hit him, it would be like hitting a piece of paper. He can also use this technique in its offensive version, where he concentrates all his strength in one point of his body and doubles it to reinforce his attack power. As for Homelander, his advantage lies in his incredible superhuman abilities. He possesses powers like laser vision, capable of destroying almost anything, and the ability to fly at great speeds. These two abilities represent a significant challenge for Yujiro, who cannot fly. So, if Homelander decides to fight from the air, Yujiro would have to resort to large jumps to reach him and bring him down. Now the laser vision would also be a problem, since it is not certain what its level of destruction is. To know if Yujiro could dodge his laser vision, we would have to define if these are faster than a lightning bolt. Currently, there is no exact reference as to how fast Homelander's laser vision is, so it is uncertain to say whether the ogre could evade them or not. Anyway, let me know your opinion on this in the comments box. Regarding enhanced senses, both characters possess X-ray vision, but Homelander's is superior, allowing him to see through walls, and his hearing is also sharper than Yujiro's. These abilities would not be decisive in hand-to-hand combat, but are important to mention. In short, Homelander's greatest advantage over Yujiro would be his laser vision and his ability to fly. In other aspects, the ogre is clearly superior. In this aspect, Yujiro has a significant advantage over Homelander. The ogre is the best martial artist in the Baki universe and knows almost all existing techniques. And as I said before, those he doesn't know, he can learn just by watching them once. Homelander has no combat experience. His fighting style is very basic and lazy. When he fights, he only uses his fists and not his legs. And he is very dependent on his ability to fly and his laser vision. As he never had an opponent who could challenge him, he never saw the need to improve his combat technique and his physical abilities with any training. Yujiro, on the other hand, has been a born fighter since he was a child. At the age of 16, he defeated the most powerful army in the world, and it has been mentioned in the series that he gets stronger with each passing day, so he doesn't even need to train anymore. As for endurance, Homelander has a special ability, which seems to be the capacity to regenerate. In his confrontation with Queen Maeve, he received a deep wound in the head, but in the following chapters, he seemed to have fully recovered. This is a very interesting ability but has a disadvantage, as it seems to be a kind of slow regeneration, not instantaneous, so in a real fight, it wouldn't be very effective. Yujiro doesn't have that kind of regeneration, but it seems his body can recover over time. Sometimes he has been injured, but unlike the others, he is the only fighter in the series that doesn't have scars. It's as if he has never suffered a wound that could leave a scar. It is said that Homelander is invulnerable to any human weapon, and that's why neither Vought nor the US government dare confront him. However, this is just speculation, so I couldn't affirm it. With Yujiro, there is also some speculation, as it is said that he could survive a nuclear bomb, but this has also not been confirmed by the author. This theory arose because Yujiro's father also faced the US Army, and they were about to drop a nuclear bomb on him, as there was no way to defeat him. However, in the end they did not do it, and it always remained a doubt whether this man could have survived the impact. Having said that, I would say there is a tie because neither of them has demonstrated a significant feat that tests their physical endurance and shows us how tough they are. Based on this comparison, everything seems to indicate that Yujiro Hanma has a better chance of winning this fight, especially if he manages to keep the fight in close combat, where he can take advantage of his superior fighting techniques and brute strength. Yujiro Hanma appears to have a significant advantage in terms of brute strength, combat skills, and experience. Homelander, on the other hand, has advantages in flying speed and superhuman abilities, such as laser vision. Although Homelander could pose a significant challenge with his ability to fly and his laser vision, Yujiro's superior combat experience, strength, and martial arts skills might give him the necessary edge to overcome Homelander. In a hypothetical encounter between these two characters, Yujiro Hanma is more likely to emerge victorious. If the ogre manages to keep the fight on the ground, it's very likely that Homelander would receive the beating of his life. Perhaps this result may sound very biased in favor of Yujiro, but the truth is that the Homelander of the live-action series has demonstrated very few feats of power, and in the times we have seen him fighting, he seems to be very inferior to the ogre in several aspects. Many people tend to make the mistake of comparing Homelander with Superman, because both share powers such as laser vision and the ability to fly. However, they must keep in mind that Homelander is a parody of Superman and not an equivalent. But hey, this is just my opinion. I could be right or I could be wrong. Either way, leave your thoughts in the comments box. Do you think Homelander could defeat Yujiro Hanma? And well, friends, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you liked it. I hope you have a nice day or night. See you soon.